You're not alone. If you need someone to talk to today, please contact Crisis Services Canada by either calling them at 1-833-456-4566 all hours of the day, or you can text them at 45645 at 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern Time. Remember, you're not alone, and Crisis Services Canada is here to help. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Rise and Shine Manitoba on AETi Productions Manitoba Show. I'm your host, Graeme Forsyth. This edition of the show is brought to you by Evolvegreen, AETi, and Fabricland Winkler. We got a lot of good stuff on tap on today's episode. Joining me first is going to be Harry Siemens on the Farm Report, going to give us the breakdown on what's been happening in agriculture since the last time that we spoke. Lorena Mitchell will be coming on to give her weekly solar report, another pre-recorded edition of that, so stay tuned for that after the first commercial break. And then after that, after Lorena's done giving her solar report, we'll go to another commercial break and have Gordie Tumilson on, marketing director and goalie coach of Pilot-Mound Hockey-Academy, to, of course, as always, break down the past weekend of games for the Academy, the upcoming weekend of games for the Academy, and just talking about some other stuff too. Then we finish off with a segment of Graeme's opinion. Going to be a long one, lots to talk about in that one today. Going to be talking about some CFL stuff as well as some NHL stuff as well. So without further ado, let's run the intro to the show. After this, Harry Siemens will be joining me on the Farm Report. That's coming up on Manitoba Show, Rise and Shine Manitoba, here on AETi Productions. And about to join me here on the show now is Harry Siemens on the Farm Report, brought to you by Wolf Enterprises. Harry, joining me here on this Thursday morning. Harry, how are you doing, man? How's it going? Been since last week since we've talked, last Friday. Just under a week since then. How have things been with you?
Well, let me just share a little personal commentary. I tested positive for COVID-19 last week, Sunday. And I knew I had something before that. And I looked after myself. I'd self-isolated and said, yep, COVID is real. I had it. I jumped on it right from the beginning. I didn't have a fever. I didn't have a breathing problem. And for a broadcaster, that's a big thing. And but I had a tremendous cold, and I lost my taste and smell for 7 days completely. And but I'm good to go. I was done isolation on Monday, but I took an extra week to stay at home just to rebuild the immune system, because it really takes a hold of your body. And you know what? I'm not 25 anymore, and so therefore you watch even a little more. So that's where I'm at. I'm actually feeling pretty good this morning, but I need to be careful. So at the end, I'm going to have a tip about exactly this to not only farmers, but everybody.
Sounds good. And, you know, it's great to hear that you're doing better than you were. COVID-19, of course, a scary, scary disease, and it's real, like you said. People who don't believe that, I can't believe it if you don't believe that COVID-19 is real at this point. But we'll move away from that. We'll talk about some agriculture, talking about, you know, the weekly crop report. What's come out in the crop report this week?
Well, the crop report stopped last week. They officially, but at the same time, we had that rain, and then farmers started to get back out in the field. But there's corn and sunflowers left to harvest, and I'm sure with the sunshine we've seen the last few days, some of the combines are going again. And then, of course, the field work. And the other thing that we need to be aware of, November. Normally it would be November 10th, but because of the kind of year we've had, the provincial government has extended the period when farmers, especially livestock farmers, can apply the manure to the fields, and that's been extended to November the 22nd. So that's a good thing, and what the weather will be like, we don't know. So that extension depends on whether we have snow or rain or those kinds of things. So people, they used to spread manure out on the snow. I remember on my farm, my dad's farm, we had a stone boat, and we would take the manure from the barn and we would just go out on the field and fork it off, put it on the snow, because that was the best thing to do. Well, they found out very quickly that any of that manure lying on top of the snow, number one, doesn't do a lot of good for the fields, for the simple reason spring comes on, runoff happens, and then that manure runs into the streams. So then they put a stop to that. But we have so much of the manure application which is done by cultivation. It's inserted directly into the soil at probably 6-inch depth levels. And so that as well has been extended to November 22nd, as well as applying nutrients to the fields, meaning the fertilizers that farmers apply in the fall and get their fields ready for the next spring. So that too has been extended to November the 22nd. So those are some of the things that are happening right now. Every farmer is out there preparing the soil as they see fit for next spring. So we're in next year's country. And especially some of the farmers that didn't have a very good crop this year, they in fact are looking really forward to next year, because we do have some moisture, but we still need a good snow cover in order for some runoff to happen next spring. But of course, we're not in control of that.
Yeah, for sure. Only can control the things that we can, right? And as long as we do that, that's all you can do. Talking about finishing the harvest, how the harvest is going at this point.
Well, it's as I said, I have a contact with the Hutterite colony just west of Winkler by 4 or 5 miles. It's called the Blumengart colony, and Daniel texted on Twitter. I guess it was maybe on another WhatsApp group, and he was just showing their setup for drying grain corn. So they were just starting to harvest corn, and the yields have been pretty good. But again, we don't have a lot of corn acres. We maybe have, 350,000 acres. That compares to 1.3 million acres of soybeans, and then in the other crops we have. I think in Manitoba we have about 14 million acres of cropland that farmers can actually plant and seed and harvest, and then of course some of that may be pasture, some may not be. But I think the other thing is continuing to listen to livestock producers on Twitter across Western Canada. I saw several comments this morning, whether it's Alberta, whether it's Saskatchewan, whether it's Manitoba, we're seeing, some of those real difficulties playing out right now. There's still not the amount of feed at the cost that livestock producers can afford. There's still not that feed available. So farmers, livestock producers are actually selling off parts of their herd. I saw one sale up at Ashern Auction Mart just this week, where the farmer sold off pretty well everything, because he just didn't see what kind of feed would be available for his herd. So that's in a nutshell. The field work is happening. The harvest is all but done, and the livestock producers continue to scramble a little bit, either selling off parts of their herds or looking for extra feed under government programs, which they can bring in from Eastern Canada, where they had a decent hay crop. But you know what? It's all relative. It's all relative. It's all relevant or relative. Yes, for the simple reason the costs of hauling feed from Eastern Canada at the price of fuel today becomes prohibitive. And so if the government doesn't step in and develop and give some subsidy of transportation and so forth, the livestock producer simply says, forget it. I'm not going to haul in feed and pay an arm and a leg and then have to sell my cattle at a smaller margin because the feed costs are so much more.
Talking more about the federal government, I spoke to you on the phone yesterday. You told me about the federal government pulling out on fertilizer use. Speak about that story. It really interested me when we first spoke about it, but just let our viewers know.
I finished the article last night, and it's called Cutting Fertilizer Emissions by 30% is Devastating for Farmers and the Food Chain. And so far, we haven't seen the actual part of it, but from what we gather, that's the target, and that's what the government wants to implement. Shock is how the Western Canadian wheat growers responded by the depth of the impact of the federal government's proposed 30% reduction in fertilizer emissions. That's the Western Canadian wheat growers that started out years ago. When I first started out as a farm broadcaster back in 1971, my father-in-law, then Mr. J.M. Fraze from Winkler area, was the local member of the legislature. But he became involved at the ground level of the Palliser Wheat Growers Association. The Palliser Triangle is the southeastern part of Saskatchewan, southwest part of Manitoba, and then western and eastern. And so these were the wheat farmers from that area, Palliser wheat growers. They became the Western Canadian wheat growers, representing wheat growers across Western Canada and so forth. And I've worked with them closely, and that was their response. Ryan Dick is a territory manager with Manitoba with the ADM Agra Industries located in Loselle, Manitoba. He weighed in on the challenges farmers will face if the feds actually implement the policy. And I met him on a WhatsApp group called Canadian Agriculture, and I've known him from before. In fact, when we started to compare notes, we actually were relatives, as so often happens in the Mennonite name game, right? But yeah. Ryan is grew up in the low farm of Manitoba area, farms there, but he together with his company representatives responded to about 5 questions that I asked him to respond to. And so this stuff is, and he says, many companies are working on biologicals for years now that they feel they are getting close to consistent results. It would allow farmers to use a specific biological that will help fixate 20+% of the nitrogen needs for cereal crops from the soil and atmosphere. We need to see consistent results, says Ryan, for this to become an accepted practice to trust and use. If it comes to reality, it would work. But at the same time, it would reduce the ability, but the whole aspect of the lack of fertilizer use, it just absolutely devastates the potential for farmers to actually make a living farming, and that's the real story. And if farmers cannot make money at growing food, that means that it will also affect our food chain. And that's the one that we need to be concerned about. Farmers, yes, 2.5 or 1.5 to 2% of the population, but the other 98, and of course the farmers eat as well, 100% need the food. So if the federal government thinks that they're going to solve the so-called climate change problem on the backs of farmers and reduce their fertilizer use emissions, then we have a real problem. The numbers that Myers Norris Penny, and a national accounting firm, they did the analysis, and they said that the losses for farmers in Western Canada each and every year, if they have to pull back fertilizer use 30%, would amount to $8.5 billion in Western Canada that farmers would not get out of their crops.
Wow, that's crazy. And yeah, it would, like you said, create, well, not like you said, but in my opinion, create a trickle down effect where, one thing happens, you take away the, pulling out on fertilizer use, and then there's a chain of other stuff that happens, and it affects a lot of people, which is insane that this could be going down. We're going to get some updates on the story as the weeks go along here. But, a lot more we could talk about today, but we're going to end it off here because we are running short on time, Harry. We'll go with Harry Siemens, farming tip of the week for farmers on Siemens Says.
Well, the key thing that I would share today, because I shared it right off the top, is that COVID is real. Be careful. I got my vaccinations back in July 29, was the last one. And I still caught COVID. I have no idea where I got it. I was with some people, but nobody else had it. And so my tip to everyone, it's real. But the thing we have to be careful of is that we don't live in fear, because so many people are living in fear because of this. Take the precautions if that's what you need to do, and then move forward from there. In agriculture, on the farms, of course, right off the hop, back 2 years ago when COVID became a real, they were social distancing because you only need one person in a tractor cab. You only need one person in a truck. You only need one person in a combine. And so that's that part of it saved us as far as the agricultural industry is concerned, helping us to move forward. So it didn't really affect the ag industry other than all the other fallouts from COVID and people getting off work.
Well, there it is. Harry Siemens, farming tip of the week on Siemens Says. And I'll add this point just for people out there. Like Harry said, he's got his shots, both his vaccinations. Guys, this is a vaccination, not an immunization. You're still prone to getting COVID-19. Just the chances are a lot less high of you getting it. That's just what I want to add on to clear that up for everyone.
Great show, Graeme.
Oh, I appreciate that, Harry. We'll see you next week, with another edition of the Farm Report. See you then, Harry. You take care.
God bless.
And Harry Siemens joined me this morning on the Farm Report on ASTV Productions. We're just going to take off the Wolf Enterprises logo there, and there we go. I'm going to be done with the Farm Report for this week, of course. Of course, Harry just signing off here on this edition of Rise and Shine Manitoba. Coming up after the break, Lorena Mitchell going to give us the rundown on what's been happening in the solar news here on Rise and Shine Manitoba show, coming up after this commercial break. Stay tuned, everyone.
Why go solar? Solar is better than ever. Our revolutionary design and inverter equipment with the latest in solar panel technology for the ultimate in-home and business security. That's right, I said security. Grid security and security of your home are linked. Fortify your future today with a battery backup system. No maintenance, quiet running. Did you know in Manitoba, grid-connected, off-grid, and battery backup systems are 100% write-off in the year you purchase for any company or farm? Do you want to back up your internet, keep your tills running, and the lights on? We can install a system that is right for you with battery backup fully capable of taking on all those essential loads and keeping you running. When you call our experts at Evolve Green, ask about getting your free energy audit today. Call or email today to find out what system works best for you. 1-866-5EVOLVE or support@evolvegreen.ca. Also, be sure to check out our website at www.evolvegreen.ca.
Welcome back to Rise and Shine Manitoba on ASTV Productions. Of course, it's Manitoba's show brought to you by one of our sponsors, Evolvegreen. You guys heard from them in the most recent commercial break that we played for you guys. Of course, as always, check out their website if you want to go solar. It's a booming industry, been growing, year in and year out. So, yeah. For sure, if you're planning to, switch to solar, be sure to check out Evolve Green because they're the people to do it, help you guys out with that. But yeah, we're going to move into the solar report now. Lorena Mitchell, host of Evolution Greenworks here on the network, of course, CEO and founder of Evolve Green, joins the show in a pre-recorded segment here on another week of the solar report to give us an update on what's been happening in solar news here in Canada, or just solar news in general.
Welcome to the Solar Report with Lorena Mitchell. I am just looking at the beautiful weather. We actually had just amazing, absolutely amazing weather for Monday. We had the high of 23 and it actually broke some records. So moving forward into this week, however, we're not going to see temperatures quite that good. We should be getting to about a high of +7 today and +6 for tomorrow. Overnight temperatures are just slightly into the minus temperatures of 4 for tonight and 3 for tomorrow. Tonight is the full moon, which is just fantastic. Please take that in. You will be able to see partials of that full moon moving forward. Interesting fact. Overnight, my solar system produced about 23 watts to 48 watts because of the shine off of that full moon. So it was pretty intense, even for Tuesday night. So take it in if you can over the next few days. We are going to have some clear skies, and now the wind is abated. We should be able to enjoy nice fall temperatures. So Friday, we're looking at full sunshine. Saturday is going to be partly cloudy and +6. Overnight, though, it's going to stay a little bit milder on Saturday night with a +1 temperature. Into Sunday, we're looking at cloud. But it's still, again, no precipitation. It will be +1 overnight. And then Monday is going to be partly cloudy. Tuesday, they're looking at some more cloud. So our temperatures are a little bit below the average right now for this time of year. But of course, like I said, last Monday, we broke records. So who knows what's going to happen. It would be nice if we continued to get those really warm temperatures. Everybody's excited. So that would be amazing. So now looking at the solar review, the 24-hour review in the subaurora, we had intervals of unsettled times, which might have created a little bit of aurora borealis. However, the active regions were auroral and polar. So auroral, again, is northern Manitoba, like Lake Winnipeg and up. And they had active regions of the magnetic sphere being penetrated, which means we get the aurora borealis, which is kind of nice, but it also can disrupt internet and communications with some satellite ones. It was not extreme, so there's no storm watch in effect for the sun right now. So as we get into the next 24 hours, it's still expected to continue to be quiet. And in the auroral, we're going to get a little unsettled, but again, nothing to be concerned about. And as we look at our plot, we can see that we did have some more significant uptick over in the auroral. So they would have had a bit in northern Manitoba, they would have had a bit of disruption during those time frames, but everything else is fairly calm until we get into something like this. When we're getting into the colors, that's when we want to pay attention, because when the storm watch is on, that's when we can have power outages, and we want to stay safe. And this is the forecast for the next 24 hours or so. On to other news. We talked a lot about drought last season, our last episode, and its consequences. With climate change, we're constantly seeing new things happening. It feels very extreme right now, and overnight, Japan, Mount Eso erupted and people were warned to stay away. The plumes could be seen as high as 3.5 kilometers above the volcano with the ash plumes, which is pretty exciting stuff. So we're just kind of keeping an eye on that one to see how that volcano is, if what's going to happen, if there's going to be lava flows. As you all probably know, Kilauea over in Hawaii has been erupting for quite some time, and there's been some stunning video footage posted from Big Island Video News, and check that out over on YouTube because some spectacular imagery, and they talk a little bit about what's currently happening. This footage was actually taken, I believe it was October 14th. And it's about a 2-minute video, but I entreat everybody to take a look at that over at YouTube. So again, that's Big Island Video News. They talk a little bit about a northern vent that had opened up for about 10 hours. This is probably one of the slowest moving volcanoes for eruptions. Like, it's had slow lava progressing over the land masses, kind of eating up areas. So now I think it's starting to taper down, but there was an uptick just in October. So this video footage will show you all about that. Of course, the big one in the news right now is Las Palmas. It's been going for 31 days. It is eaten up 811 hectares of land mass. And as it spills out into the ocean, which is the Atlantic Ocean, they're actually got about 40 hectares extra landmass growing from all of the lava that's been coming out of this volcano. It's not really showing any signs of stopping at this point, and it has, of course, endangered people. It has taken up 2,000 buildings by lava now, so that it's destroyed 2,000 buildings in its 31 days. So it is the most important one since 1585. Sorry, it's quite amazing when you see these things, and of course the footage out of on some of these media outlets has just been amazing. They do actually have live stream that you can watch of this volcano as well. So take in some of those spectacular images. It's they're on watch. Of course, there's a lot of sulfur in the fog that's happening from this the off gassing, and you can actually see that coming in this photo really well, which is why I chose it. So it's quite dangerous. The one thing that you do need to remember whenever you have these kind of things happening, the volcanoes erupting around the world like this, they come with a lot of seismic activity. Tuesday night, they had a 4.8 magnitude. So they've had, I think, over 600 tremors with this eruption. So then you could have tsunami warnings and all of those types of things happening. Again, this began September 19th. No sign of slowing down yet. So everybody's carefully watching these situations. Now, back to solar news. Sorry, Manitoba. Again, over the next 7 days, we're going to have a fair amount of sunshine. So for people with solar panels, we're going to be producing quite well with tepid temperatures. So it will be just, an amazing kind of solar experience. I'm going to do Evolution Greenworks this week. We're going to be interviewing Jack, one of the directors over at MIA, and we're talking about a conference they're going to be happening this year. So please check out Evolution Greenworks. We're going to talk about MIA, which is the Manitoba Environmental Association. So with the Manitoba Environmental Association, they're going to talk about all things renewable. So it's not just about solar. You can learn all about everything else that's happening around Manitoba and anything that is new and innovative. So check that out with mia.org. And that's it for our report today. Have a solar day. Bye.
And Lorena Mitchell, host of Evolution Greenworks here on the network, giving us the weekly rundown on the solar report, not just talking about solar, but some other things as well. Coming up after the commercial break, I'm going to be joined by Gordie Tumilson, goalie coach and marketing director of Pilot-Mound Hockey-Academy, in a pre-recorded interview coming up on Manitoba show Rise and Shine Manitoba here on ASTV Productions. We'll be back after this commercial break. Welcome back to Rise and Shine Manitoba here on ASTV Productions. Of course, Manitoba show brought to you by Evolution Evolve Green, not Evolution Greenworks. That's Lorena Mitchell's show. But brought to you by Evolve Green and AETi, as you guys just saw their commercial. Be sure to check out the stuff that they do on their website, anywhere you can find them. And yeah, Lorena Mitchell joined me most recently on the show. Joined the show most recently as she did her segment pre-recorded once again, the Solar Report, the weekly Solar Report here on ASTV Productions. And yeah, be sure to check out her show, Evolution Greenworks, coming out tonight here on the network, where she'll be interviewing some people from MIA. So yeah, be sure to check that out here on the network coming up tonight. Going into another pre-recorded interview now, Gordie Tumilson, goalie coach and marketing director of Pilot-Mound Hockey-Academy, joined me on Tuesday evening to talk about the past weekend of games for the Academy, as well as the upcoming games and some other stuff as well. We talk about the three teams, kind of talk about some of the things they've been working on, stuff like that. And yeah, in this interview, I am wearing a different shirt, and I do not have this mug. Could not find that shirt this morning, so I'm going to have to search for that today. But aside from that, let's bring in the goalie coach and marketing director of Pilot-Mound Hockey-Academy now, Gordie Tumilson, on this edition of Rise and Shine Manitoba. Joining me now on Rise and Shine Manitoba, as always, to break down the past weekend of games for the Academy. We'll talk about the past weekend of games as well as the upcoming games for Pilot-Mound. It's goalie coach and executive marketing director of Pilot-Mound Hockey-Academy, Gordie Tumilson, joined me here on this Tuesday evening. Gordie, we saw all losses for Pilot-Mound this weekend in their 5 home games, 4 for the U17s, 1 for the U15 team, all going up against the Edge. Lots of shots on the goaltenders. We'll talk about that more as the show goes along here, but just talk about, the feeling around the Academy after this past weekend, after losing all games at home.
Well, losing is one thing, and getting better is another. And we're certainly on the upswing of getting better. We're being matched up this past weekend with Edge School out of Calgary, and they've got a tremendous program, much the same as the Rink Academy does in Winnipeg. And tough to battle with these guys. They've got they've got the pick of the litter. In cities that are 750,000 or more. I guess Calgary's probably a million too. So there's a lot of hockey players and a lot of good hockey players. And typically most of them the good ones end up at those facilities and those programs. We, on the other hand, go and get some other kids, and that's okay. So, yeah, we took it on the chin a little bit on the score. But as the weekend went on for our U17 team, we got better. Our final game was an 8-3 loss, which seems like a fairly big score, but the play wasn't indicative of that score. Shots on goal were certainly less than normal against the Edge, and so we felt better about what we were doing and what's going on. So that worked out okay. We got thumped pretty badly by their U15 team. Our U15s took another chin there, but we haven't seen that kind of this kind of competition much yet. And so that comes usually as a surprise to our guys. And by the time we figure it out, they've got a big lead on us. So we're not worried about it. We know that February is going to come along, and besides being cold and no mosquitoes, we're going to be able to compete with these guys much better by that time.
Yeah, and we talked about that during our broadcast, me, Cody Wall, and Seth, about how that first period from Pilot-Mound on that Sunday game, in that game where they made things a bit closer, was probably their best period of the weekend, shoring things up in the defensive zone a bit more for most of that period, more aggressive, more jump in their step as well. A lot of good things from them in that period, and they ended up getting the first lead of the weekend in that game that they had against the Edge. Obviously, they gave it up, but to see the U17s progress and get to where they were at in that final game of making it competitive at points in that game, how nice was that to see, truly, from just a viewing perspective out there?
Sure. Well, from a spirit standpoint, it's great we got a lead, got a good feeling about it. Guys went hard. To point out too that we had two defensemen go down in the game, the third and fourth games, early in the fourth game. So we were down to 3D and a forward playing, as our fourth defenseman. So, and the forward did not a bad job, but you can't go down key players against a team like Edge and expect to compete at the same level. However, that being said, the boys felt better about their game. They know they were in tight and in tough. It has taken us a little bit longer, I think, to realize how good some of these other teams are and what you have to do to step up to play them. None of our players have played academy hockey except for one prior to this, and that's Miles Gordon, our goalkeeper. And so he's been the only guy that's kind of used to this kind of hockey. Most of our players have played in a lower, in lower age group, AAA or AA, and so or high school. So the competition's just ginormous, and catching up to these guys is hard to do. I should point out that on Sunday our U15s played a really good game in Souris, and we got beat 4-3 there, but in a really close game right down to the wire. So we had some positives out of that as well.
Yeah, for sure. We'll get into that U15 team in just a moment here. But yeah, you guys in that final game were missing some defensemen for sure. Definitely, like you said, hard to go out against the Edge or any team when you guys are shorthanded like you were. But a good effort to see from the boys there, and a lot of parts of that game, making it closer than the other matchups in the weekend there against the Edge. But talking about the U15s, dropping an 11-1 game against the Edge on Saturday. But like you just said, a 4-3 loss to the Southwest Cougars on Sunday in Souris. Definitely nice to see the U15s, even if they get blown out one game, to come back in other games and make it as close as they did against Southwest. I'm sure you guys were happy about that. Talk about that a bit more.
Sure. Well, of course, they wanted to win that game. They were very close. It was 3-3 at one time, and we came close. But that, the spirit of the players is what we count on here, and the fact that they can continue to motivate themselves. The coaches are certainly trying to motivate them and move them forward. And our player development program is kicking in just a wee bit here and there on each player. But in terms of the being thumped one day and going back out the next day, the U15s have been very resilient. The weekend prior, they lost to a big score to Notre Dame, and then came back and won the game the following day. So, this group of young kids they're full of pea and vinegar, and they just want to go play hockey and get better and show people that Pilot-Mound's got a good program and they're part of it. And yeah, so we're really pleased with the effort, with this, again, the spirit of the two teams, the two male teams that we have here in particular.
Yeah, for sure. I think I've said that before. This team is resilient. It seems like that's the word going around about these U15s, because they are, to get blown out like they have in games and to come back the next game and make it a close score and almost even winning at points. Definitely gotta love to see that out of this young group of, we could call them boys, but young men at this point in the season. Talking about the goaltenders, they faced a lot of shots this week, and of course, the U17s in their final game, it wasn't as bad as the 3 previous games, but lots of shots there for the goaltenders. What were they feeling like after this past weekend?
Well, they're disappointed sometimes that they don't get quite as much support as they think they would like. However, I just came off the goalie meeting after being on the ice with both the U17 males and then the U18 female team. So a little supper, a little goalie meeting, discussion about what we did right. In particular, what we did right. I mean, we have to remember that despite all the goals being scored, we're making a lot of saves, and a lot of the goals are just not stoppable because they're either in tight plays or backdoor plays or just overpowering shots from too close in. And so we got to understand that right now, and as we move, as we've come through this first 6 weeks, we're just not up to snuff to some of these teams. And again, the player personnel is the key here, and then getting everybody on the same page is another key. And we're not there yet with some of our players, but we watch for improvement on each player from each game. And we do see improvement all the time. So the goalies, their job is to keep it as close as they can possibly keep it. And then hopefully when we get a chance to be in a game that's really close to manage to win it. So that'll be the next test that we have is to be closer and start to win some of these games that will be closer down the road. We're looking forward to playing Prairie on this coming week and see where we fit in there too in the U17s.
Yeah, we'll talk about those upcoming games on the weekend in just a moment here. But talking about the U18s, the only team that wasn't in action for the academy this past weekend. Just talk about what was worked on this weekend for the U18s, because I saw before one of our broadcasts, Brad Platt was out with his group. Just talk about what the U18s were working on the weekend, as well as what they've been working on this week so far.
Well, it's mostly skill development, individual, player development right now. They don't do a lot of flow drills. I mean, there's some, but typically most hockey teams work on flow drills. It's easy for the coaches to kind of set drills up and do those kinds of things, and so they don't get as much time individually to work on their individual skills. We have taken that, as part of our program, and it's become a greater part of our program just because some of the kids that are here, quite frankly, aren't as good as we had hoped we could muster this year. So it's our job. It doesn't matter how good they are or not good. We've got to get them up to snuff. And again, we see improvement. So a lot of passing, a lot of how to take a pass, how to make a pass, a lot of skating for balance and backward skating and those kinds of things. Passing certainly is a major part of the game, both on the taking a pass and giving a pass. And then we have a lot of drills working on goal scoring, which we have a little bit of a void there. So we're working on learning how to score more goals, what to do when we get in close, and tips and rebounds and those kinds of things. So they've worked on all of that kinds of stuff a lot, and they're going to continue to do that probably right through until November-ish, and then maybe up to Christmas, and then they'll begin working on more on the team stuff that's going to help us win some games as we get closer to the playoffs in the new year.
Let's finish off by talking about the upcoming games this weekend for the Academy. Take us through, the teams that are going to be in action for Pilot-Mound this weekend.
Well, the U15s go to Winnipeg to play against the Rink Academy, and that'll be a tough game. We know that Rink's very good, and the Rink and the Edge teams play at a pretty close pace. So we know that, and we've played the Rink before, so we know we're in for it there. But we think we're better, and we hope the score's closer. We keep the shots down a little bit, and our goalies are a little bit more prepared for sometimes the speed of the shots, and sometimes we've worked on getting ready just a quick split second sooner for some of the shots. They've kind of surprised us with the quick release of shots that we're doing there against U15s on Friday afternoon at 4:00 in Winnipeg. And then the U17s have a 3-game series and we expect to be closely a close series there, and to be able to give them a tough time and hopefully come up with some points in this particular series.
Well, Gordie, as always, thanks for coming on Rise and Shine Manitoba. Always nice to talk to you about the past weekend for Pilot-Mound Hockey-Academy, as well as the upcoming games and some other stuff as well. We'll catch you next week, Gordie, here on the show. Until then, you continue to stay safe, and best of luck to the Academy coming up this weekend. And Gordie Tumilson, goalie coach and marketing director of Pilot-Mound Hockey-Academy, joined the show here on this Thursday morning. Of course, he joined me on Tuesday night to do that interview. Of course, like I said before, that interview started, I had a different shirt on, like you guys saw, a different cup, didn't have this mug in here, but could not find that shirt today. I guess that'll be one of my tasks today, trying to find that shirt. But aside from that, let's throw it to another commercial break. We'll be back here for this week's edition of Graeme's Opinion, coming up on Manitoba Show, Rise and Shine Manitoba, here on ASTV.
Hello, my name is Lorena Mitchell, owner of Evolvegreen. And here at Evolvegreen, we take the environment very seriously. We have a 10 kilowatt solar system that offsets our main facility by 75%, as well as maintaining natural prairie on our grounds. Our mission, creating renewables that work for you. I started Evolvegreen in 2008 with a passion for the environment and wanting to change my corner of the world. And that remains the same today. Through design, consult, and installation, we provide renewable energy systems and storage integration. Here at Evolvegreen, we help Canadians rethink power and storage to help fortify our children's future. To learn more, visit evolvegreen.ca.
Welcome back to Rise and Shine Manitoba here on ASTV Productions. We'll hop right into it. Welcome back to the show, everybody. It's time for this week's edition of Graeme's Opinion. Going to be talking about some CFL news today, as well as giving my power rankings for, where the CFL is at right now. And then I'll be giving you guys my Week 12 predictions, so power rankings heading into Week 12, as well as my Week 12 predictions. Then we'll be talking some NHL, the Jets game against the Wild on Tuesday. Going to be talking about that, recapping that a bit, as well as talking about my top 10 goaltenders and my top 10 players in the NHL. So lots to talk about today. Let's get into it. Starting off with a trade in the CFL. This one was big. I didn't expect this to happen, but it happened. Trevor Harris, former QB for the Edmonton Elks, getting traded to the Montreal Alouettes for Antonio Siemens, a defensive player. He was sent to the Elks in return. This move comes after Vernon Adams Jr. was placed on the 6-game injury list with a shoulder ailment. And, I think this is a terrific move by the Montreal Alouettes. You get a guy with experience. You get a guy that's made it to the big game before the Grey Cup. Someone who's been one of the top QBs for the past number of years in the CFL as well, and he's going to an offense with plenty of weapons. You talk about guys like Jake Winicky, Eugene Lewis, BJ Cunningham, Quan Bray, and then in backfield you got an absolute monster in William Stanback. Everything I think is set up for Trevor Harris to have success on this team with Montreal. This is a good team. They only get better by adding Trevor Harris, even though Vernon Adams, this season, you like to think for them, they were thinking that Vernon Adams Jr. should be that guy moving forward, but getting Trevor Harris now with Vernon Adams Jr. out, it creates an opportunity now for Trevor Harris to maybe, give Montreal an option to consider maybe keeping him after the season, depending what happens in the games that he'll play and what happens in the playoffs for them. But this is a move. Like I said, you get a top QB to replace another high-end QB. You really didn't have to give up much in return. And he's going to an offense with plenty of weapons, and with his talent, you should see Trevor Harris succeeding with the Montreal Alouettes, in my opinion. But who knows how long it'll take for him to get up to speed. He's just got acquired by them, so going to be interesting to see if he's starting this week or if they're going to take a week to get him more comfortable in the offense that Montreal is running. Moving into the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. The Bombers go out and acquire Shaq Cooper from a former BC Lion running back and former defense DB in Winston Rose. And, adding these two guys, just adding more talent to this roster. Winston Rose, of course, if you're a Winnipeg fan or if you even follow the CFL, you knew in 2019 he went off with 9 interceptions for the Bombers. Pretty sure he was also named an All-Star as well. But adding him to a defense that's already so stacked just adds more talent, which I love, more depth at our DB position. And you also get a guy like Shaq Cooper, who hasn't put up great numbers in his time in the CFL, but the talent is definitely there. He's got the speed. Put him behind an O-line like the Bombers. It'll be interesting to see what he'll do, but he's also not going to be relied upon to be that guy, I think. I think this is more of a move the Bombers are making right now just because of the health of Andrew Harris, with him getting injured in that game last week against Edmonton. Brendan Oliveira, it could be a good running back in the future. He's shown some glimpses of really good play this year, like last week and in the first week of the season, but there's that inexperience there as well. And are you going to get that consistency week in and week out from Oliveira? Adding Shaq Cooper, yes, his numbers aren't spectacular, but the talent he has. And this is just a good move to add some depth. Pretty sure Shaq Cooper also returns punts too. So there you go. I'm not too sure about that, but if that is the case, that's another plus for the Bombers. Moving into the CFL Power Rankings now for Week 12. Starting off at the bottom of the list, the Edmonton Elks. Really a team at this point. I feel like they've, it's kind of, their season's pretty much over. I don't really see this team making a push for the playoffs. It's clear after they gave up Trevor Harris that the organization, getting rid of a player that maybe they kind of ran their course with him, but I don't see Cornelius, as much talent as he has, just that inexperience. I don't see him leading this team into a playoff spot, just how strong the Stamps have looked as of late. Of course, the Bombers at the top, way ahead of anybody in the league right now. And also, you got a team like Saskatchewan too, who I think, should start to pick it up. We'll see. But you also got a team like BC in there as well, who I think has the quarterback advantage, and overall just a better coach team. I think the Edmonton Elks have talent at the receiving position. They have talent at the running back position, but the QB, is he going to step up for this team and lead them to wins? Is that defense going to step up? I'm not so sure. I don't really see that for the Edmonton Elks. Moving into the Edmonton Red Blacks at number 8 on the list. Only reason they're here is because they've gotten wins against Edmonton, the only team that they've beaten. But yeah, Red Blacks, I don't know. This team really doesn't have as much talent, like I've been saying, as the other teams here in this league. They got some talent, obviously, but as a whole roster, I don't see them as talented as other teams in this league. And the Red Blacks 2-8 at this point. I feel like they are gonna have to try again next season and try to make that push for the playoffs. I just don't see them making a push here when you look at teams like Toronto, who's the top of the East right now, who's better than them. Hamilton, who, a better team than them. And then Montreal, with the newly acquired Trevor Harris, even without him, just overall, Montreal being a far better roster than the Ottawa Red Blacks at this point. That's why I got Ottawa here, is because of the record and because of the talent on their team and their results. Hasn't been many positives for Ottawa this season. Sorry, Red Blacks fans. Moving into the BC lines now, back-to-back games of getting blown out. Mike Riley has struggled in his last 2 games, through 2 interceptions last week, and this team has just been really struggling to run the ball offensively, and having a QB like Mike Riley is a huge plus. I still think he is the best QB in the game overall in the CFL, but any team needs to have a run game, and BC has really been lacking in that, even though they haven't ran the ball as much as other teams in this league. Even when they have run it, they haven't been getting much, and this defense hasn't been great either. BC sitting at 4-5 right now. We'll see if they can turn it around. They got a game coming up against the Bombers in Winnipeg this week, so going to be interesting to see how they come out in that one. The Hamilton Tiger Cats, 4-5, coming in at number 6 on my rankings. This is a team that I think they just need to find their permanent starter at this point. They started off with Mazzoli, then they benched him for Evans, and then Watford came in, and now we're back to Mazzoli. It's kind of like we've went full circle with the quarterbacks there in Hamilton. But Mazzoli played well last time out last week. He's shown that he can be a good QB in this league. This team has weapons. You talk about guys like Auckland, Brandon Banks, Thomas Erlington, I'm pretty sure that's his name, the running back for this team. They got these weapons. They were a high-powered scoring offense in 2019. It's just, can they find that rhythm? And also, can they close out games? There's been times where they've been up in games most recently, and they haven't been able to close it out, actually blowing leads in the fourth quarter, and that resulting in losses. But this team has a good defense. I'd say that's been the strength of their team so far this season. If Mazzoli can finally get comfortable and this offense can get into a rhythm, or whoever they have a QB, could see the Ticats having a strong finish to the season, to be honest. And yeah, it's a very talented roster. So yeah, that's why Hamilton is number 6 right now, at 4-5. The Montreal Alouettes, of course, just acquiring one of the best QBs in the league, one of the best talents in Trevor Harris. You, like I said, have good talent around him, a good running back, a top running back in this league, deep receiving core. They've been winning close games too. And you know what? Harris, throughout his career, has been pretty good with the football in terms of turnover, not turning the ball over. As talented as Vernon Adams Jr. is, He's been turning the ball over quite a bit this season, whether it be fumbles or in the air. I think that Harris, if he gets comfortable and gets confident, he's going to help him in that turnover department. And you got a good defense too. This team is 5-4 right now. They're going up against Toronto this week, so it's going to be a big game for them. Montreal has the talent to be one of the best teams in the CFL. In my opinion, they just need to start to, put it together more. They have been putting it together, actually. What am I saying? But if they continue to win close games, getting experiences like that only helps the team moving forward. We know how this offense can come out and execute with the weapons that they have. Trevor Harris being added to this team, I think, is very interesting. Like I've talked about, just with the talent that he brings. So if Harris gets comfortable and catches fire, could see Montreal also rising up the ranks. Moving into the number 4 position now, I got the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Draw back-to-back close games to Calgary. In my opinion, Saskatchewan, if they're going to have more success here, they need to continue to give William Powell that football. I'm thinking about 20 times a game, at the very minimum, like 15 carries. We've seen what he's been able to do this season when he's gotten that rock, when he rushed for the ball. 21 times he put up over 100 yards. This is a powerful running back. And I think with Fajardo struggling right now, how he's been struggling, I think that when you have a running back like William Powell to fall back on when your QB is struggling, emphasizing that run game, I think that Saskatchewan could kind of start turning things around here as of late if they start to put more emphasis on running the ball. Of course, this team has a solid defense as well. This is one of the most talented teams in all of the CFL. Just Fajardo needs to find his consistency, needs to find his game again, and I think Powell needs to get the ball more for this team to have success on offense, take more pressure off of Fajardo doing that as well. Moving into number 3, the biggest jump here on the power rankings. It's the Calgary Stampeders, 5-5 right now. They've gone on a streak as of late, beating the Riders in back-to-back close games, while recently beating down the BC Lions 39-10. Bo hasn't been the same old Bo, but the team around him has been playing well. The defense hasn't been allowing many points in the last 3 games as well, so that definitely helps. Of course, Bo can still get it done, still make some clutch throws, but obviously hasn't been the same. But, you got a running back like Kadeem Carey right there, who's been solid this season. You got a defense that's playing really well, and the best kicker in the CFL right now, and Rene Paredes. He's been absolutely money for this team, putting up a lot of their points in some of these games. So the Stamps, reason they're here, they're hot as of late. Everything seems like it's starting to come together for this team, and it's crazy. About 3 weeks ago, a lot of people, including myself, were kind of thinking this team could be dead in the water. I thought they were dead in the water, to be honest. But, with Bo improving his play just a bit, with this team coming out and playing complimentary football, getting it done in all phases, and with their latest winning streak and with Calgary's history, watch for this team to, potentially make some noise in the playoffs. Even though I don't think that they'll make the Grey Cup, this is a team with the history, and you got a QB, a coach that have been through getting the Grey Cups before. So there's guys like that who know what it's like to be able to get it done. But yeah, Calgary strong as of late. Bo not playing at his highest level, but this team overall has been playing great, and Rene Paredes has been absolute money for this team all season long. Moving into the number 2 team now, the Toronto Argonauts, second best record in the league at 6-3. 2 big wins in the last 3 weeks: a 30-27 win over the Montreal Alouettes and a 24-23 win over the Hamilton Tiger Cats on the road in their last game. It's an offense that can hurt you in many different ways. McLeod Bethel Thompson has been, not playing terrific on offense, but there's been time he's been solid. He's been solid. He's been getting the job done. This team has a lot of weapons at receiver. Eric Rogers, and then some other guys as well. You also got, a deep backfield too. Some good options back there. The only thing that, kind of worries me about this team is their defense. Of course, Chris Jones coming in, being a defensive consultant, can definitely help a bit with just his defensive knowledge. But, I think the biggest thing that stood out is this team has been able to win in many different ways. Whether it be passing the ball, running the ball, getting out to quick starts. More talking about earlier in the season against the Bombers, but looking at it, a 30-27 win against the Montreal Alouettes, a 24-23 win against the Hamilton Tiger Cats on the road. Those are the games you need to win against your division rivals like that, the teams in the East. Toronto establishing themselves as the top team in the East right now in the CFL. And it's a team that you can never count them out if we're going off of that game against the Ticats, because they were down quite a bit heading into that fourth quarter, I believe. I'm going to check here just to make sure. Let's see here. That was the game in week 10, on Thanksgiving. And yes, they were down by, the score was 12-5 heading into that fourth. Yeah, they had a big fourth quarter. So this is a team that can come out and explode at any time in a quarter. Putting up those 19 points, getting that game to overtime, and ending up beating Hamilton. But yeah, Toronto, a good offense, defense. I'm still not sold on that defense getting it done when it really matters in the playoffs. But overall, this team playing really good football right now, and that's why they're at number 2, just because of their record and because their most recent games and how that offense has been looking too. Moving into the number 1 team, you already know who it is. It's the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They got the best QB statistically in the league right now in Zach Collaros. 2,565 yards in the air, most in the league, 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions only, and a 70.3% completion percentage. So he's playing at an extremely high level, so efficient, and I love it. For all the Collaros haters out there, he really has proven everyone wrong this season. I think he's been a top 3 QB in the league this season. But then you got a top running back in the league in Andrew Harris, who, is out with an injury right now. But you got depth there with Brandon Oliveira, and you also add with even more depth in that backfield with Shaq Cooper, like I talked about before. You got a great receiving core as well. Kenny Lawler, Nick Dembski, Darwin Adams, the list goes on. A great O-line, as well as the best defense in the league, which only got better after adding Winston Rose. This team going to be facing off against BC this week. And, they're 9-1 right now. Best team in football. They've been the best team in the CFL, not just football, but just not in football, not in terms of the NFL, but just CFL this season. Of course, since that's the league they play in, the Bombers have solidified themselves as that top team and the heavy favorites going into playoff time when that comes around. They've already clinched their spot, even though I think that was inevitable. But with that win over Edmonton last week, they clinched. And yeah, this team, is going to be the heavy favorites, I think, heading into the playoffs. That's for sure, with just the way they've been playing. Absolutely phenomenal season for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Moving into my Week 12 predictions now. We're going to keep this short because we got a lot more to get into on Graeme's opinions still going into the NHL. But Argos on the road against the Owls, the Lions on the road against the Bombers, Red Blacks on the road against the Ticats, and the Riders on the road against the Stamps. And you know what? We're going to go picking it off the fly here. I'm going to go with the Montreal Alouettes. I feel like if Trevor Harris is starting, that gives the Owls a big advantage in that game rather than having, I think his name is Shiltson for them. But Alouettes, at home, I think they'll take this one. I think it'll be a close game. But I think that, if Trevor Harris is starting, I go with the Alouettes because I think that he's going to want to come in and he's going to play with a chip on his shoulder. I think he's going to come in and want to win that first game. Of course, anyone does with their new team, with this Alouettes team. But I think the Owls, this is a game they need to win to keep pace with the Argos. If they win this game, they'll both be tied in the standings. I'm not too sure about the head-to-head record that they have this season. Who's going to be on top if the Owls end up winning? Will Toronto still get it because of the head-to-head or the points for? I'm not too sure. But Montreal Alouettes in this game, I got them winning in a game that I think that they, is a big game if they win. Lions versus Bombers. I'm going with the Bombers in this one. I just feel like the Bombers are too good, though I do think that the Lions will have a bit of a bounce back week. I don't think Mike Riley will look as bad as he's looked, statistically in the past 2 weeks he's played. I think that, after getting beat down by the Bombers, I think that BC will still make it a bit closer, but not much closer. I still think the Bombers will overall run away with this game in the end. A team that has been very good in the fourth quarter as well and not allowing points. So I think that the Bombers will come out and take this one against the BC Lions. Ticats and Red Blacks, I'm going to go with the Ticats. More talented team. Tim Hortons Field is a tough place to play in. The Ticats have only lost twice there this season, I believe. Might have been once or twice, but overall, very good football team. A very good football team compared to the Ottawa Red Blacks. But like I said, if Hamilton can, get their permanent starter in, if Mazzoli can continue to build off of what he did last week, get more confidence, just looking at it, I think that they're too skilled overall for the Red Blacks to handle, especially at Tim Hortons Field, a place where the Ticats have played very well, and since it's opened. Looking at the Riders and Stamps now, I'm going to go with the Riders in this one. I think that 2 close games between these two teams in their past matchups, I don't think it signifies that Calgary is going to beat them again. But I could see Calgary winning this game all the same. But I'm just going with it because I think that Saskatchewan is going to get one game on this season series against the Calgary Stampeders. I think the key to their success has to be you need to run that ball with William Powell, as he has been one of the strong points on this offense this season. And Cody Fajardo just needs to make it simple, focus on not turning that football over, taking what's given to him, stuff like that. And if this, I think the Saskatchewan defense will be motivated and come into Calgary. And I think that this game will come down to, it'll come down to the wire, but I see the Riders winning this one by one possession. That's what I'm thinking. So I picked the Riders once again. Seems like every time I pick them, except for that game against Toronto, they always lose. But rolling with the Owls, the Bombers, the Ticats, and the Riders this week in the CFL for my Week 12 predictions. All right, now moving into the Jets recap. You know what? We are running late on time here, so I'm going to postpone it one more week on my top 10 goalies and top 10 players list here in the NHL. We'll get that to you guys next week for sure. But let's talk about this Jets game. The Winnipeg Jets losing again against the Minnesota Wild in that game against them on Tuesday, a 6-5 loss in OT. The Jets blew a lead. We're up 2 goals in that third period. Empty netter got called back by when Kyle Connor went offside on the Mark Scheifele goal. Really changed the game from there. I think allowed Minnesota to still be within one and get that win, but tie it up and get to overtime to get that win. But, talking about the first, there was goals being traded. Jets went up 1-0 after Kyle Connor went in, walked in, and sniped it. Zuccarello then, I forget exactly when, but after that, picked up a long rebound to tie the game. Connor scored again after, and Eriksson Ek ended up getting a bounce off the boards behind the net, a puck that bounced off the boards behind the net, and he came around and put a backhand in on a wraparound attempt. Jets in this game scored off the rush. Good forechecking at times resulted in good things for this team. This is a team that's very aggressive. I like how aggressive they were playing in the offensive zone. I love how they were forechecking at times in this game, having support at all times in the O zone. This team was making some really nice passes too, moving around that puck really well. I think a result of that came on the play when Pierre-Luc Dubois scored the goal in the second period, I believe, on the man advantage. But Jets defense was kind of getting manhandled by Minnesota at times, down low, getting forechecked. It was too much for the Jets to handle. Really in front of the net too, they were winning those battles, getting position on the Jets, really seeming like they wanted it more at times out there. Jets just getting overpowered, and really the Jets a lot of times in this game in the D zone really, were puck watching a lot of the time. I think on that long rebound from Zuccarello, they were puck watching. I think in all the goals except for the Eriksson Ek goal and that OT winner, the pucks, the Jets were puck watching. And, looking at it, I just feel that in this game, the Jets really blew this one. Momentum kind of shifted after that goal was called off from Mark Scheifele, but at the same time, it's early in the season for the Jets. I just feel like if we shore things up a bit defensively, move that puck around quicker in that defensive zone, it'll result in us getting some better chances to break out, not be hemmed in as much. And of course, Helly, has been struggling. I don't think it's been entirely his fault, but he hasn't looked like his usual best. And you know what? Can't get any worse from here, right? You're 0-3 to start the season, 2 regular time losses to 1 OT loss coming to Minnesota. Jets just need to work on not getting broken down as much in that defensive zone. I think the offense, the forechecking has been there. We've been getting our chances, but I think getting back as a unit as well and not getting burned off the rush will be a big thing for the Jets to their success as well this year, even though they weren't getting burned off the rush against the Minnesota Wild. So that was a lot of gibberish there. Kind of was just going off the top of my head. I didn't have a chance to watch much of that game. I watched this game in glimpses and spurts, whatever you want to call it, in some sequences. But from now on here on Rise and Shine Manitoba, since it's hockey season, going to be recapping the Jets games that have happened to this point when we do these broadcasts coming up here in the future, coming up next week. So I'll have another Jets recap for you guys. Anaheim on tap for the Jets tonight, and their home opener should be a good one. Should be the Jets looking to get their first win, trying to get some revenge on Anaheim after that first loss of the season. But that's going to do it for this edition of Graham's Opinion. And actually, before that, I'll just give you guys my top 10 goalies and top 10 players in the NHL right now. I'll name them and then we'll break them down next week if that sounds good. So talking about goalies, my top 10 goaltenders starting at number 10, Darcy Kemper. Then it goes Thatcher Demko. Semyon Varlamov is number 8. Gibson is number 7. Leonard is number 6. Saros number 5. Fleury number 4. Helly number 3. Price number 2. And Vasilevsky number 1. And then my top 10 players in the NHL are Patrick Kane, Victor Hedman, Brad Marchand, Artemi Panarin, Draisaitl, Leon Draisaitl, Austin Matthews, Nikita Kucherov, Crosby, McKinnon, and McDavid. And there might be some tweaks a bit, moving up some guys in some placement on the top 10 players list. But overall, the players will remain the same on that list. So that's going to do it for this edition of Graeme's Opinion on the ASTV Productions. That's going to do it for Rise and Shine Manitoba here on ASTV Productions as well. I've been your host, Graeme Forsyth. Thanks for taking the time out of your Thursday morning and tuning into the show this week. Special thanks to Harry Siemens, Lorena Mitchell, and Gordie Tumilson for coming on as the guests. And special thanks to everyone who took the time to watch the Graeme's Opinion segment. And as well as a special thanks to our sponsors in Evolvegreen and AETi, as well as Fabricland Winkler for sponsoring today's edition of the show. We'll be back for Rise and Shine Manitoba next week on Wednesday at 10 a.m. You can check that episode out on our Facebook, on our Twitter, and on our website as well. Next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central Daylight Time. Going to have the guest list out for you guys the day before Wednesday, so stay tuned for that on our social medias, on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. But until then, folks, I'm your host of Rise and Shine Manitoba show, Graeme Forsyth, signing off now. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Have a wonderful weekend too, everybody. Stay safe out there, and until next time, until next week on Wednesday, folks. Peace out, everyone.